You guys, welcome to or welcome back to the channel. Freedom of speech is a very important thing to me for those who watch my channel are aware of. If we're going to have any sort of good progression, I believe we all need to be able to put our thoughts and ideas out there so we can all collectively be able to weed out the good thoughts and ideas and the bad thoughts and ideas. By allowing people to be able to speak their minds, we achieve a few things. We are able to discard any idea that is undeniably just stupid. Having the ability of coming up with new ways of moving forward without having to be worried about being persecuted for ideas even if they suck. And just simply being able to say something completely stupid and not having to go to jail for it. Outside of direct calls on actions to violence, which is illegal as it is in the United States. Obviously, rightfully so. Freedom of speech allows you to be able to protest on things that you know little to nothing about, just like this fine gentleman.
Build a new Workers' Party, a socialist alternative to Sunak and Starmer for a socialist intifada.
Yeah.
What's a socialist intifada?
If I'm being honest with you, I just got this at the stand over there.
Okay.
I don't actually know the definition of the word intifada,
Okay.
but I mean...
Do any of you know the definition of the word intifada?
By the way, great video from Trigonometry. Highly recommend their channel. I'll leave a link to this video in the description down below. The most common thing I hear people say is that freedom of speech is not freedom from consequence of that speech. And I completely agree. If you're running around saying racist garbage, you probably should deal with some repercussions from that. Not going to jail, obviously, but expect society to start treating you like a complete idiot. Some will argue that calling out transgenderism or gender dysphoria as being problematic is due for the same treatment. First off, comparing something that is a mental illness to the struggles of a race is ridiculous and just outright stupid. Skin color insanity might share the similarity of not being able to choose it, but that's where the comparisons stop. Sean Strickland, at the moment of recording this, the current UFC middleweight champion. Strickland is very well known for speaking his mind. So blunt, so brutal, but that's what Strickland is known for. Outside of his fighting capabilities, because he is an absolute demon when he's in the octagon.
All right, next question. Do you believe fat shaming is okay if the person you're fat shaming is someone you love?
I think fat shaming is always okay. There's nothing worse than being next to a fat, smelly motherfucker. And the most human thing you can do is telling a fat, smelly motherfucker to put down the fork.
But you guys need to get hit by your dads a little bit more.
If your stomach looks like a and you're naked and a guy doesn't know which hole to put it in, you're too fucking fat.
You do not have to agree with everything he says, because I know I don't. But you should respect his right on being able to say what he wants to say. And like it or not, Strickland has become an arbiter of sorts when it comes to these cultural issues that have been going on recently. Now, recently, Strickland has been doing a lot of interviews leading up to this fight. And most of the interviews that he has done has been pretty humble, actually. He talks about how he doesn't really contribute to society and that he's just being paid to hit somebody and to get hit. All while praising the everyday person who wakes up early in the morning and has to go to a job to provide for their families. But in one particular interview a few days ago, Strickland kind of went a little hard on an interviewer, to say the least. Now, I do want to preface this with saying that I don't agree with everything Strickland said during this interview, but the fact that he did say what he wanted to say is commendable. And that is the reality of freedom of speech. Eventually, somebody is going to say something that you don't agree with. Now, you can just throw a fit about it, or you can refute it. You can actually argue it and prove that your points are more correct than their points. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chopped up version of this interview, and we're just going to walk through it together a little bit.
I did want to ask, you're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear it. It's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the fucking opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to
Opposition?
You got like fucking. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not going to say.
Yeah, he definitely voted for Trudeau, and he knows there's like a stigma behind saying that, and that's why he's saying, I don't want to say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not going to say, like if you ask a motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not going to say. That's none of your business.
It's embarrassing.
Biden.
It's embarrassing
hey,
to say that.
John, I'm glad you've had great experiences.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys.
To
The
a
enemy,
lot of people.
the enemy of Canada.
Sure,
All right.
that's what it's got to be. It's got to be. We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse
Are you? Let me know. Are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking. This is a part of. Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're like, you're
I understand what he's trying to say here. It's not that Strickland hates gay people. He's just saying that if he has a child, he's hoping his child will have children. And in order to do so, the child can't themselves be gay or they can't have children, right? So I get what he's trying to say. He's not saying like, oh, I hate gay people. He's just saying that if I have a child, I want my child to have children. And in order for my child to have children, they have to not be gay. Now, I am on the reporter side on this bit because if I had a child, I honestly wouldn't care if they were gay. All I'm saying is I understand where Strickland is coming from in his mindset here.
You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just fucking pathetic.
Referring to Justin Trudeau seizing bank accounts of the truck protesters back during that whole spiel.
The fact that you have no fucking backbone and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
That doesn't really answer the question, but I did want to
Little
ask
aggressive.
things you said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and we'll know what they say.
I think I understand the point of what Strickland's doing here when it comes to the Bud Light situation. I think that what he's trying to show is that there is no allegiance with these companies. They don't care if you're gay. They don't care if you're trans. All they care about is if you're selling beer, if you're able to push the product. They have no actual interest in cultural issues, but companies do like to piggyback on cultural things to try to show that they are on their side in hopes of selling more product.
They stand for. Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental fucking illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have fucking weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of fucking you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your fucking bullshit you're fucking peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders.
I do believe the pendulum is starting to swing the other direction. I just hope it doesn't swing too far.
I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could fuck in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there, asking these stupid fucking questions.
Obviously, Strickland was quite aggressive there, and I wouldn't say he has the best way with words. He is very emotionally charged, but what he's saying there is not that crazy. Now, there are parts that I did express that I didn't necessarily agree with. Overall, I don't see a problem with him saying anything that he had said. It could have been articulated a little better, sure, maybe a little bit more clarity, sure, but there isn't really anything wrong being said here. You may agree with him on some things and disagree with him on other things, and that's totally fine. But does that mean we need to cancel Sean Strickland? Does that mean we need to silence people that we don't agree with in general? Absolutely not. You have to think about things like censorship at the most base level of what censorship is. Like, who gets to decide, or what group of people gets to decide what words or things are offensive and what things are deemed okay to say? Now, there are obvious things that are just horrible to say, clearly, but when you start censoring things one by one, eventually they will censor something that you think should not be censored. Some of these hypersensitive people ban clapping at events. Eventually, just blinking at someone at a certain angle will be considered offensive. I know it sounds hyperbolic and extreme, but it's really not that far-fetched. I mean, just as a quick example, the term cis or cisgender was used to identify people who are just normal, I guess. Born with penis, acts like male, lives their lives as a male, cis male. No, not just man or male, but cis. We got to put cis in front of it, which I personally find to be insulting because of the way it's being used recently. Keyboard warriors yelling at you saying that you're nothing but a cis male is trying to use the word as an insult. But in my opinion, the term cis itself is offensive. Now, do I believe it needs to be banned language? Absolutely not. But now we're back at who gets to determine what's offensive and what's not offensive. If I find it to be offensive to be called a cis male, and somebody and a group of people say that no, cis is not offensive, it's literally a term that, defines on who you are. These are the same people that would get mad at me if I referred to a transgendered person as a tranny. I don't personally find that term offensive, but they find it offensive, so they get to choose what's offensive and not offensive, and I don't get to choose what's offensive and not offensive? Are you starting to see the problem here? The term cis is being used as a slur just as the word tranny was being used on transgender people. Freedom of speech is important, and being able to say what you want to say is important, and allowing people to dictate what you can and cannot say is tyranny. We need to stop catering to this nonsense. We need to stop allowing the minority of voices to have an outright control over the entirety of society itself. Not to say their voices aren't important, but their voices should not be more important than mine or yours. But you guys, tell me what you think about all this in the comments down below. And as always, do not forget to hit the like or the dislike button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you hopefully get notified every time I post a new video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.